Welcome to OZChris vs DC Comics for week 2 of August, here with the reviews of Batman and the Outsiders number 4, Detective Comics number 1009, The Flash 76, and Justice League Odyssey number 12. So starting off with Batman and the Outsiders, Slice of Death. Written by Brian Hill, art by Dexter Soy, coloring by Veronica Gandini, the cover by Tyler Kirkman and Arif Priento. So Ra's al Ghul is slowly turning Sophia into one of his followers, giving her this fresh, really good design, like armor. Apart from the helmet, I'm not a big fan of the helmet that she's wearing, but overall with the suit, I think it's a really good design. And while this is going on, the Outsiders are dealing with their own problems. Cassandra wants to help Duke deal with his fears. Black Lightning's not particularly happy about a gun for hire, Caliber being on the team, and Katana has her own worries with her past, with Maseo trapped inside of her sword. So they all have to deal with their own individual problems to work as a team, as Batman prepares them for their greatest challenge, facing off against Ra's al Ghul. So that is pretty much the gist of this issue, plain and simple. So story, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. It was a really good issue. The art and the coloring, I'm going to give a 4.5 out of 5. Amazing art and coloring as always. Like I said, I really like the design of Sophia's Ra's al Ghul-esque outfit. I really like the design, and overall the art and the coloring was really good. The cover itself, I'm going to give a 4 out of 5. Really good art, really good coloring. Really like this cover. So on to Detective Comics 1009, Flash Frozen by Freeze. Not really, but I'll get into that. So Survivor, written by Peter J. Tomasi, art by Christian Deuce, coloring by Luis Guerrero, the cover by Doug Monk and David Barron. So we get a little bit of a little insight to Batman's overall day, it kind of almost ignoring his life as Bruce Wayne, just as he gets home to rest, literally woken up 2 minutes later so he can live his life as Bruce Wayne. And we get a few Batman references. So when he gets woken up literally 2 minutes after he just went to sleep, he says, "I'm going to kill you," to Alfred, the one who woke him up. He says, and Alfred replies with, "I have it on good authority that Batman does not kill," to which Bruce replies with, "And I have it on good authority he's willing to make an exception." The whole Batman doesn't kill policy. Sometimes he does kill, sometimes, but the majority of the time he doesn't. So while this is all going on, Deadshot is contracted to kill someone, which ties into later on in this issue, as Bruce takes the entirety of his team as part of this environmental initiative to head to Singapore, which is the focus of Deadshot's target. He hijacks the plane, holds all of them hostage, and we'll leave it there. Story, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. A good start to this story arc. The art and the coloring, I'm going to give a 4.5 out of 5. This amazing art and coloring I really like. I don't think I'm particularly familiar with Christian Deuce's art. It doesn't sound familiar, but I am really liking what I'm seeing. His Deadshot here, I really like the art and the coloring on his Deadshot. The whole design, all of that is really good. The cover, I'm going to give a 4 out of 5. I like the art. I like the coloring. This has nothing to do with the interior. Flash Frozen by Freeze. Freeze doesn't appear until an epilogue where he's talking to Nora while she's still frozen, using equipment that Lex has given him as part of the whole Year of the Villain offer, dark gifts. But Freeze has nothing to do with this main plot with Deadshot, so false advertising on this cover. So onto the Flash. Speaking of Freeze, we got another ice-powered, ice-themed villain here. Well, villain, anti-villain, anti-hero sometimes, depending on what the story is. Flash 76, The Frozen Fury of Captain Cold, written by Joshua Williamson, the art by Rafa Sandoval, the coloring by Tomo Mori, and the cover by Sandoval, Jordi Taronga, and Mori. So, Death of the Speed Force Part 1. So, after the events of Year 1, remembering all of that, the Flash decides it's time to branch out, reconnect with people he's kind of lost connections with. So, for this instance, Wally and Avery, he wants their help and wants their pretty much overall he wants their help. He needs their assistance, as he reveals to them he's recreated the Flash Museum and created his own speed lab with help from Commander Cold and Steadfast, the new user of the Still Force. As they discover that the Speed Force is dying. These new forces that have appeared are slowly killing the Speed Force, and they need to find a way to prevent this. At the start, Wally and Avery struggled fighting Tar Pit and Gerda. This is the reason why their powers in the Speed Force are draining, because it's dying. And while this is going on, Captain Cold saves Heatwave and recruits them back into the Rogues. They're getting the Rogues back together, and we'll leave it there. There's a guest appearance of a character that hasn't appeared since, I think, maybe Flash Rebirth, I think. It was a nice little surprise cameo. I won't spoil who it is. You're going to have to read this to see who it is. Or I'll talk about it in next issue's review. So story, I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. Really good start to this story arc. Really interested in seeing, this is going to be the culmination of what's going on with all these new forces that have been released after the events of Flash War and all that. So Death of Speed Force, I'm 100% on board with this. Can't wait to see how it goes. The art and the coloring, I'm going to give a 4 out of 5. I really like the art and coloring in this. It's really good. Sometimes, very rarely, sometimes the faces look a bit weird. Like when Barry smiles, it's just like, Barry, are you okay? Did you have a stroke? Is that why your face is like that? But no, honestly, overall, the art and the coloring is really good. Like this page here, probably my favorite page of this issue. The cover, I'm going to give a 4 out of 5. Really good art, really good coloring. But much like the Detective Comics one, it really doesn't have anything to do with the interior. The Frozen Fury of Captain Cold. Flash doesn't face Captain Cold yet. It's mainly dealing with the surprise cameo character and the Speed Force dying, and Captain Cold is just going off recruiting the Rogues. But overall, it was a good issue. So Justice League number 12. Written by Dan Abnett, art by Will Conrad, the coloring by Rain Barreto. The variant, I got the variant cover by Lucio Perillo. So, Darkseid is able to successfully, without even like a challenge, is able to defeat the Justice League Odyssey and uses the core 3 members, the quote-unquote new gods, and forcibly recruits them to his forces. As we've seen with Cyborg's already been converted. All he says is ping. He's as you can see, Cyborg is quite the talker when he's working for Darkseid. Starfire is used as the spark, the literal fire of creation, the engine for Sepulchre, while Azrael tries to use his powers to bring his the Azraelites to him to help, but they all are converted by Sepulchre into, the Hyper Network into para-angels, not parademons, para-angels, until Azrael himself is also converted to Darkseid's cause, leaving only Jessica Cruz, Green Lantern, by herself to face Darkseid, who has returned to a more Darkseid look. He's ditched the Ronin the Accuser cosplay and is going back to his actual clothing this time. And he offers Jessica a place on his side. He's trying to, he's saving everyone in the ghost sector. As he says, it's a huge panic room when eventually Perpetua destroys the multiverse and all that stuff. All the stuff that's going on in Justice League. But she's not buying it. So we'll leave it there. Story. I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5. Really good story. The stakes have been highly raised. Something bad happens to Jessica. Well, two things bad happen to Jessica. One, her power ring loses batteries. There's no energy left because she literally only had like 4% left in this issue, and she used it all trying to fight against Darkseid. Wasn't going to work anyway. And then something else happens. I won't spoil it, but the stakes have raised. It's getting really, really, really interesting right now. Darkseid has seemingly achieved his plans. He's activated Sepulchre. The Ghost Sector has now created its own reality, safe from when the multiverse eventually dies. So we'll see how that goes. The art and the coloring, I'm going to give a 4 out of 5. Really good art, really good coloring. Oddly enough, just like this page here, which really doesn't particularly have a lot going on with it, I really like the art and coloring on that. And when Darkseid goes back to a more Darkseid-esque look, I really like that as well. The variant cover I got, I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5. This is an amazing looking cover. It's so goddamn great. Why this couldn't be the standard cover, I don't know. My only gripe with it is Jessica's face. It looks a bit odd, maybe because it's at an angle, but it looks weird. It doesn't quite look like Jessica, but everything else in it is an amazing looking cover. So that is it for those 4. Thank you all for watching. If you're new to the channel, leave a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I will see you all in the next one.